My first guest this evening seems to be running a bit late. He's best known for his portrayal of Captain Kirk on the Star Trek series, and more recently, the films of the same name. He's also had success lately with a new TV series called T.J. Hooker. I just can't understand what's holding him up.
You forgot my foot! Get my foot back! Oh, that didn't beam my foot up.
Dropped you.
Yeah, they dropped. There have been times they've dropped other things, and it's hurt.
How many times does that happen?
The beaming in.
Good to see you
Good
again.
to see you, Michael.
Thank you. Last time I saw you was in Philadelphia.
Do you know I interviewed my prospective father, stepfather, on your show?
You're kidding.
I never told you that.
No.
My father had died about 12 years ago, and my mother was going to remarry about 2 years, 3 years after that. And the man was from Philadelphia. And I said one day, I'm going down to do the Mike Douglas show. She said, well, dear, the man I'd like to marry lives in Philadelphia. Would you talk to him and see if you like him? So I come down to do your show. You know how they send a limo from New York?
Yeah,
So I'm
sure.
doing the whole star bit, and I've never met this man. And I had phoned him, and I said, well, you be in the audience, and I'll see you after the show, and we'll go have a bite to eat, and we'll talk about my mother and whether I want you to be my father or not. So there's a guy in the audience while I was doing your show, and afterwards I was waiting around outside the limo.
He's checking you out.
And then he comes out, lovely, gray-haired, graceful man, and of course he's just a nice little man from Philadelphia, and I usher him into the limo, and we're sitting back in the limo. I said, well, all right, now tell me about yourself. I mean, how much you make, and
do you really love my mother?
Yeah, really. I mean, those were the questions. We laugh about it, but it was a wild situation.
What an experience.
Really, interviewing your father.
With all the experience you have, the acting experience, that was a tough role, right?
It was not only tough, it was filled with all kinds of, you can imagine, all kinds of emotional implications. I mean,
Do I want
you,
Bob, to be with my mother?
Easy now, they may be watching.
But in between the series and the film, do you ever get to feel uncomfortable about Captain Kirk?
No, not uncomfortable. On the whole.
But that identity, Bill, does that bother you?
Well, on the whole, over the years, people calling me Captain Kirk, or William Shatner, became...
You ever get to the point where you say, I'm William Shatner? Do you ever say
No, but
that?
I had a guy say, come on, you're not Captain Kirk. And I said, yeah, I'm Captain Kirk. I'm the guy that plays Captain Kirk. They kept thinking, but on the whole, it's been good rather than bad.
Oh, sure. Now you know what's going to happen now. They're going to be calling you TJ.
That's exactly what happened. A pilot played one day, and the following day we were shooting in the streets of North Hollywood, and it was Here Comes T.J. Hooker immediately overnight. The power of television is awesome.
How did they decide on a name like T.J. Hooker?
Well, actually, it was going to be, the series was going to be called Hooker, and a driver had written...
Big on Sunset Boulevard, it'd go.
Well, yeah, but even
Very
bigger
big
numbers
there.
than that. The driver had written, you know how they place the sign Hooker in the, or the sign of the movie, in the car that they're driving, and a driver had written under Hooker, that's his name, and I thought that would be a great title. Hooker, that's his name.
TJ is all right.
TJ is all right.
Yeah.
So now they're calling me TJ Kirk.
Now, getting back to the new movie, the Star Trek movie, why does it have that title?
The Wrath of Khan.
They have a
He
big
gets
thing
pretty
out
angry.
here about
Khan
titles.
gets pretty angry.
But they have such a thing out here about titles. They'll start you'll read about a movie, it'll have one title, and they'll say, no, that's not right. They'll change it. Then all of a sudden, it has another one.
This one was going to be called The Revenge of Khan, until George Lucas called the producers. Wait a minute, I've got Revenge of the Jedi, or whatever it is.
Uh-huh.
Oh, right, okay. He did the special effects, so I guess they figured if they didn't do what he asked, he'd have a special effect for them, the brass.
A lawyer
choosing
with
the
a
title of a
suitcase.
film is extremely important.
Very important.
I mean, it's part of the chemistry of what makes a movie
and what brings people
appeal.
to that
I
place
guess that's
where they
why
buy
you
that
call
little
it
ticket.
Rocky III or whatever,
Sure,
you know?
sure.
To tell the people, this is Rocky, this is Star Trek, this is Star Trek II.
But we're going to see a little bit of Kirk's personal life in this one, aren't we?
I think so.
Yeah, we're
An
going to see.
untold story from whose
I love it.
journey
I love that idea.
several men have returned.
We have a clip. Can you tell us about the clip, Bill?
Okay, I would like to tell you about the clip. but I don't know what the clip is.
Why don't we enjoy
But I'll
it
tell you what,
together?
do the clip, and I'll tell you what you just saw.
Good enough. Good enough. From the new Star Trek, The Revenge
Of
Khan.
It is clear that the senior officer on board must assume command. You take the ship. Jim, you proceed from a false assumption. I'm a Vulcan. I have no ego to bruise.
You're about to remind me that logic alone dictates your actions.
I would not remind you of that which you know so well. Commanding a starship is your first best destiny. Anything else is a waste of material. Were I to invoke logic, logic clearly dictates that the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. Or the one. You're my superior officer. You are also my friend. I have been and always shall be yours.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
Well, guess who gets to take over the ship? Yeah. Once again. And guess who loses his ears? Yeah.
Not old pointy ears.
Yes. Old Lenny.
Old Lenny.
Hates that word.
Does he?
Yeah. He wants to be called Leonard.
Leonard?
So we call him Lenny.
Anything to bug him. Huh? Have you grown up with Kirk?
I tell you that when I was playing the series, the only thing you could do in playing the series, because the work is so debilitatingly long and hard, you don't have time to plan or plot or say, I'll try this or I'll do this or think about it at night. All you've got to do is memorize the words and say it. So I found the safest thing to do was to play it pretty much close to myself. Well, in this film, as I've gotten older, this film reflects my aging process. The very things, by no accident, as you can well imagine, the very things that I'm going through at my age, with my children growing up and my viewing the remnants of my immortality. I see death ahead of me, and Captain Kirk has the same kinds of feelings. The anticipations of his mortality, and so what Captain Kirk was going through, strangely and not by accident, was what I was going through, or am going through, the processes, and so I was very close to it. Yes.
Is this the high point for you, career-wise, right now?
This is
has to be.
Imagine an actor after all these years having a hit movie and a hit series in the same year.
That's unheard of, isn't it?
It's unheard of. Yeah, I don't know who would be fool enough to do that.
Bill, where did the last Star Trek movie make all the money? Because I kept reading where it wasn't doing as well as they expected in America, and yet the overall gross was astronomical.
$175 million.
Holy Toledo. Get a piece of the action?
Holy Cincinnati, too.
You get a whole...
And
holy
Detroit,
Cleveland.
Cleveland and Philadelphia. I get a piece of the action. A piece of the action is a amorphous term, meaning audit the book, audit the bookkeepers. You know.
How about the merchandising?
I have
Are you
seen,
in on that?
Well, I'm supposed to be, but I have not really seen any money from.
I've seen a lot of little figures of you around here, and hither and yon.
How undignified it is to have a statue, a little plastic thing shoved in your face. Hi, Captain Kirk.
You'd probably say, sign this.
Right, right. Sign it all over my face.
Don't people find the most interesting things for you to sign when they get you in public?
Yeah.
No one ever has.
A piece of paper here. Do you have a pen? Have you gotten one of those?
How do you like the back of the match folder? That's always a neat trick where you go, hey, I can't.
But I love when they ask you for the pencil or the pen. That's, no, I don't.
You got any great fan stories? Because all of us have those, where people get mixed up and they're terribly excited and just somehow say the wrong thing. One of the classics is they almost always say, "You're a big fan of mine,"
yes,
instead of "I'm a big fan of yours."
Yes,
they always get it in reverse.
Well, I think that's an interesting Freudian slip, actually.
Sure, you're a big
fan of mine. That turnabout, I'll have to try and figure out what exactly that means, but...
Tell me a fan story. You know you have some.
Well, a fan story.
Because I remember how the audiences reacted to you, William Shatner, on my program.
Right. Some
Very
years
favorably.
ago, I was standing up in front of an audience, talking, entertaining somebody, doing something. And there had been some explosions in the recent are in the recent American past. I've forgotten. Maybe it was the airport explosion in New York at that time, or somebody had exploded. It was fresh on our minds, explosives. And I was talking to a group, saying, and out of the corner of my eye, I saw somebody. And as I turned, I saw this man throw a large object at me. And I ducked just in time, cat-like reflexes. And it sailed by and hit me on the shoulder. I thought, I'm dead, it's a bomb. And it turned out to be a meringue pie. But the meringue had hardened. I guess the guy had been waiting, I'm going to get him today. And the meringue had hardened to the consistency of steel. So it bruised my shoulder and fell with a clatter on the floor. Now, there's about 5,000 people in the audience. And it was like the guy who tried to shoot the Pope, or suddenly 5,000 people converged on him. And I said, no, stand back. Oh, you got very dramatic. I was trying to be Captain.
I'm not bleeding.
That's meringue. Good. And I held them back, with the force of my personality, willing them. Meanwhile, 7 security guards out beating the tar. Beating the tar. I think he said...
Just one more.
Right, beat one more tar out of him.
I think he's unconscious now.
Right.
Yeah, now.
Then I thought, what an interesting idea to have these people who were thirsting for this man's blood, to bring him on stage and inquire why. Why did you throw that meringue pie at me? And he wouldn't come on stage. And I'm not going up there, and they threw him off into jail.
That's wonderful. Are we out of time?
We're out of time? Well, I've just got rolling.
He just... What? Oh. Did you hear what the man said?
I heard what the man said. I was struck.
This is live,
Yes.
They can't hold up cards. They got to say, does Spock die? I mean, it's a subtle thing like that. Does Spock die? Die.
I don't know.
You don't know, and if you knew, you wouldn't tell me.
Got it.
Give me a meringue pie. I want to get rid of this guy. I'll be right back. Thanks, Bill. With Willie, Tyler, and Lester right after this.